spoke to a class of maybe about 100 people, and I'm sure there were a few undocumented kids sitting in the room. And I just remember what it was like for me to be, in high school, pre-DREAM Act. I graduated high school in 2000. And by the time I realized that I was undocumented, I was a freshman in high school, I kind of just thought, like, what's the point of going to college? Like, why even try? Maybe I should just be what society thinks I should be. I should be some sort of gang-banging, whatever person that they think we're supposed to be. If it wasn't for, like, my high school principal and my high school superintendent and all my teachers who really kind of, there's a great Graham Greene quote that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and he said, in every childhood, there comes a moment when a door opens and lets the future in. In every childhood, there comes a moment that a door opens and lets the future in. For me, those were like 7 or 8 teachers that just opened a lot of doors when I was in high school and in college. And if it weren't for them, they own whatever success I've become. But if you translate that to every other undocumented person, I can only imagine the kind of network of teachers and mentors and volunteers and parents and supporters who look after people like me. And we need their voices to be heard. That's actually the next push that we're going to do next year as we lead into what I'm sure is going to be a contentious year in Congress, we need to hear from more educators. We need educators of all ethnic, racial backgrounds to speak up and say that this is not just a Latino issue, and this is not just this, in some ways, this divisive, segregated issue in our lives, which leads me to this other point that I want to make that I hope opens up the conversation since we're supposed to talk about the election. I was fortunate enough to cover the presidential campaign 4 years ago. Well, I covered it for like 2 years and 2 months. I was actually in Iowa in the second week of February, which was then Senator Barack Obama's first trip to Iowa in 2007. And I think, by the way, that's when I started thinking, I can't keep living like this. Driving around Iowa and like New Mexico with this driver's license and thinking that at any moment, I remember when I had to follow Hillary Clinton around and had to get on the campaign plane for a week, and I had to give them my social security number and like my information, and I just kept waiting for someone to just, hey, this is not valid. I just kept waiting for someone to say that because I was sure they were going to find out, but no one did. But I felt like it was like a combination of Catch Me If You Can versus like The Telltale Heart or something. I just felt really guilty, and I just felt like someone was going to catch me at any point. That's when I started thinking that, you know what, I can't keep doing this. But what was so interesting covering the campaign, especially because I ended up sitting outside of David Broder's office. I don't know if people here know who David Broder is. He was like the dean of the political press corps. And he gave me a book because I had never covered a campaign. Everything I knew about politics was from the West Wing. He gave me a book called The Boys and the Bus, which is like a classic book about political campaigning. And then I read this book, which was written like in the 70s, I think. And I'm like, wait a second, it is still largely boys on the bus. There weren't a lot of women covering the campaign. Not only that, there weren't a lot of people of color covering the campaign. I think I was the only Jose in the whole political press corps. And Jose with an Asian face, which was really confusing for a lot of people. And I remember particularly covering Sarah Palin in Ohio. And can you imagine? By the way, she's perfectly wonderful. She looks nice, it's great. But I remember going to a rally at Bowling State University, and there must have been 15,000 people in this rally. And for a lot of people, Sarah Palin was Barack Obama, right? She filled a room. McCain couldn't fill a room like Sarah Palin did. And I remember going to this rally of like 15,000 people at this university. Everybody was white, except for me and Helena, who was this African-American producer for NBC News. And at one point, she was across the room, and I was in the other room, and I think my eyebrows were like doing their thing, which is like... And Helena and I just looked at each other, and we're like, where are we? But and I'm not saying that I was just very curious about, and again, you know, if the greatest gift that I think journalism ever gave me is the gift of empathy. To be able to sit down with people who feel a certain way or have a system of reality that's so completely divorced from mine. The kind of people that can sit in front of a computer and tell me that Barack Obama is Muslim. Never mind, by the way, that there's nothing wrong with being Muslim. But Barack Obama is Muslim, who would then proceed for 3 hours to like go on Google and show me every evidence as to why Barack Obama is Muslim, right? Online. And this to me strikes at the heart, I think, of this election, and I think the even more increased partisanship that we're feeling. I'm a big proponent of social media. I don't even like to call it social media because to me it's like the me and media. It's the me and media. It shouldn't be any wonder why people of color, African Americans and Latinos and Asian people over-index in their use of social media, because we finally have a channel. It's called YouTube and it's called Twitter, right? But there's such a divide between what people of color are talking about in terms of how politics is being informed with the way the political press talks about it. Which is why, I don't know if you heard about the Colin Powell thing, Colin Powell endorsing Barack Obama, right? And John Sununu saying that, hey, because maybe, you know, Colin Powell's black and so is, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, but you're white, so are you supporting Mitt Romney because you're white? But no one talks about it like that. And we still look at race and politics in this country from a completely black and white dynamic that is so completely antiquated that does all of us a disservice. And let me give you kind of a specific point about this. Barack Obama, if Barack Obama wins, it's going to be on the back of the Latino vote, point blank period. If Romney loses, it's going to be because of the Latino vote. So let me give you some numbers. So they're telling you right now that there are 7 swing states, 7 or 8, New Mexico, Colorado, Nevada, Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, North Carolina. So let's take North Carolina. Obama 4 years ago won North Carolina by 15,000 votes, 1-5, right?